helping students and healthcare professionals not just survive, but thrive with a purpose. This is the CMDA Student Pulse podcast with your host, Bill Reichart, National Director of CMDA Campus Ministries.
Well, welcome to another episode of CMDA's Student Pulse podcast. I'm Bill Reichart, National Director of Campus and Community Ministries here at CMDA. And I have with me Erica Brown. Erica, welcome.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.
Well, we do a lot of different things on this podcast, Erica. We have a lot of different guests who are knowledge experts on this subject or another. We also, though, like to have students like yourself share their stories, their journeys of faith, how they got called into medicine, how they got to the medical school or dental school that they are now at, and how CMDA has been a part of their journey of faith. So we want to start there. Erica, tell us a little bit about yourself. First of all, your family. You're married? Have kids?
Yes, I am married. Yeah. My husband, Warren, we've been married about 11 years, and I have a 10-year-old daughter. They're here with me in Fort Worth, and I was so thankful that I was able to get into a medical school where we can all stay together.
That's great. Yeah. Well, suffice it to say, you might, I don't know if this is the right category, but a non-traditional student in that this is a second a career for you.
Yes, it is.
You've been doing something before you went to medical school. What was that?
Mm-hmm. I actually had several jobs. One of the jobs I did is I worked with the military in a special operations base, and I worked as a patient safety manager. So my whole purpose of my job was to just lower incidents of patients being harmed, just to figure out ways of preventative harm reduction. And so I got that job because my husband was in the Air Force, and so I wanted to, again, stay close. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I got that job. And then another job I actually worked for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta. Okay. I did that job while I was getting my master's public health degree. And that job was a little different. I worked in the rickettsia lab, which is infectious diseases, and I worked with cat fleas. So I always joke we always joke about it, how I picked about almost 4,000 fleas off of possum hair. Oh. So yeah, it's not glorious, but
somebody's got to do it.
Yeah. So I've had several jobs.
Well, they've been in the sciences. You got your master's public health. What made you think medical school was in your future? What shaped the calling that you were going to embark in this new journey? Because again, you've got a family. You've got your husband, your daughter. I mean, there's a lot of things to consider, right? How did you decide that this was the thing that God was calling you to?
Yeah, so I think I always knew. I know everyone has a story like, I wanted to be a doctor since I was 7 years old, and I don't really have that story. It kind of came through a traumatic incident that happened. I'll keep it brief, but okay. I was with my mother in a hair salon, and we ended up getting held hostage. And I witnessed several people, unfortunately, get shot. And there was one lady in particular, she was shot in the head, and I call her Miss C, and she survived. So that was when I was 7. And so I couldn't get it out of my mind that someone was shot in their head and they survived. So that kind of piqued my interest into the human body and medicine and these doctors and nurses and, how could they save her? And so I kept in touch with her. I followed along with her. She's still doing well. And so I wanted to know, how can you get shot in your head and the bullet had to remain there because of the location? How could you still survive? So then I started asking questions at my pediatrician. And then when I got old enough, I started volunteering. They called it candy striping back then. And I started volunteering with nurses. And then I got to see what exactly they did. They called it magic juice that they gave Miss C to help her pain medication. And so that kind of started my journey of, this is really cool. Like, the brain is connected to the body. The brain controls the legs, the arms. And, at 7, I didn't know anything, but I just knew I wanted to know more about how is she able to survive. So I feel like through a traumatic incident, God kind of allowed me to use that and pique my interest in science and medicine.
So but you got your master's in public health. So what was compelling to start this journey with a public
Yeah.
health degree?
Public health. So I'm still very interested in public health. I think what really piqued my interest in that was I wanted to figure out, was medicine a field for me, or was infectious diseases and public
Okay.
health a field for me? So then I started talking to some of my mentors, and they said, maybe you should look into getting a master's of science in public health. It's a 2-year degree.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, if you still have like this burning desire to go further, than going to medicine. So that's what I did. And that's how I got introduced to the program at the CDC.
Mm-hmm.
And I just knew that I needed to be more involved as far as in the medical field. I was doing a lot of research, and I wanted more hands-on with patients. I wanted to really be the one where they came to, where they told me they had a problem, and we worked together to create a treatment plan.
So you were a third year at TCU, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's too soon to say, but maybe not. Or do you have a sense of where, what kind of medicine you'll be getting involved in?
I've always been drawn to the field of psychiatry. Initially, my major in college was psychology, but the old saying of you want to be a doctor, go into medicine, you have to be a bio major. So I changed my major to biology, but I've always had an interest in psychology and psychiatry.
Okay.
So that's an interest. I'm also interested in family medicine. I've been enjoying my surgery rotation. So I'm kind of still an open book right now.
Sure.
But so we'll see. I have about a year to make a decision before I have to apply.
Stay with us. More Student Pulse podcast in just a moment.
Early bird pricing for the 2024 National Convention is still going on, but it ends on January 11th at midnight. Register today so you can join us in Asheville, North Carolina to hear from an amazing lineup of speakers. Hear from Will Graham, Executive VP for the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association. Ashley Chapman, President and CEO of the Alliance for Freedom, Restoration, and Justice. Tony Evans, Pastor and founder of the Urban Alternative. Lydia S. Dugdale, Director for the Center for Clinical Medical Ethics at Columbia University. Dr. Far Curlin, Professor of Medical Humanities at Duke University, and Reverend Stan Key, our 2024 Conference Bible teacher. Remember, all registration prices will go up after this promotion, so don't miss this opportunity. We can't wait to see you at Ridgecrest.
Now, your husband, you said Air Force, correct?
Yes, he's no longer in the Air Force. He works as a software engineer now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because my son-in-law is a general surgery resident at Baylor Scott and White down at Temple.
Oh.
And they came from Tulane, where he did med school. So I know in this journey of medicine, there may be some travel in your future. But yet I know that you've wanted to stay in the community that you're currently at. Hopefully, maybe you can, or I guess you might be willing to move, Lord willing, correct?
Yeah, correct. We made a decision when we got married before we had our daughter that he knew I wanted to go into medicine, and I knew that he didn't want to stay in the military. So we made the decision that as long as we're together and God will provide, and that's all we need. We weren't going to be bound by fear of having to travel. I would love to stay where I am, but maybe that's not where God wants me.
Well, I think being open and willing to go where God's leading you is so important, and also that you've entered into this journey knowing that this is a calling. This is where God's placed you, so you can put your life in His hands. He desires the best for you. Well, let's back up just a little bit. Talk about you started TCU. Did you seek out CMDA? You've been involved in CMDA as a student. You currently are. When did that involvement begin?
That began when I first started at TCU, and then just like most medical students, you get so eager and join all the clubs, and then you kind of overwhelm yourself. But it's our CMA chapter, but I felt like that was one of the chapters I was like, I have to remain active in that chapter. And so while I wasn't able to make every single meeting, I still made it clear that I wanted to be part of the chapter. And so what happened was we had done some research, and they needed someone to present it. And so there was an opportunity. And so myself and a classmate actually volunteered to present the research that some of my classmates had done. And I had never been to the NatCon before. And so I was just thinking, I'm going to go there, present my poster, and come home. You know, I was just thinking it was just like another conference or convention, because that's typically what we do, right? We just go there, we meet a few people, we don't really stay connected like we should, and then we do it all again the next year. And so that was the complete 180-degree difference. Like, as soon as I walked in and I went to one of the larger sessions and the worship and the message, I literally, I have to be honest with you, I burst into tears, and they were happy tears. They were, because I literally, it was this feeling that came over me. It was the Holy Spirit, and I just felt like I belonged. Like I can't even put it into words fully. I just knew that this was the place I was supposed to be, and I knew it was all God. And any student could have volunteered and got selected. And just being there in the worship, listening to all the messages, connecting with the students, the staff, and all the other physicians there, it for me was like, wow, I had no idea that this is what I was going to experience. And it was emotional for me, because in medical school, you feel, you can often feel secluded because you spend a lot of times indoors studying. You can't really go to the weddings and the baby showers and see your family like you want to, like most of the other population. On the weekends, we're studying. This past Labor Day, studying. So to be amongst people who were of the same mindset and who weren't afraid to profess the name of Jesus, and to know that there is no separation between what I'm doing and God. Like, God is the one that got me here, so I'm going to give him all the glory. So I text my husband right away. I could show you the text message, and I said, I have met my people. And he's like, what are you talking about?
That's the phrase I heard that Grant Hewitt, the regional director who made mention of your story here, said that you said, yeah, these are my people. This is my tribe. Wow.
I never said that. I've always said, conference is okay. And I was there for 3 days, and every day I was like, gosh, I don't want it to be over. Student sessions, just to see all of the students together, talking about Jesus, talking about their practice, talking about their desires and their hopes. It really encouraged me to not be afraid to stand alone when I need to, but to know that I have this tribe that I can reach out to. It was just phenomenal. And it really lit a fire in me, because I told Grant, Mr. Hewitt, that like, I was really feeling alone. Like, not that I didn't have friends in med school, not that my professors weren't great. It was an emptiness that I know that only God's people could feel, being around them, in the presence of them, could feel.
Yeah. Well, let me just put some context around what we're talking about. This was the national convention that we have every year. In this case, you went to the one in Cincinnati. There was 1,000 people there. So this was a high watermark event for us as well. I think a lot of it too, just coming out of COVID, and people wanted to get back together again. We are hardwired. God has hardwired us for community, to be with one another. And so we had been lacking that for so long. And so I think we were all very excited to be a part of that together. And then the research piece. Now, this is interesting. This was an initiative years ago by a bunch of students who, at the time, were thinking, how do we get more student involvement, connection? And they thought about this VIE poster session, which is what you involved yourself with, right? That's the research piece. That's how you got to go to NatCon, right?
Correct. And even that in itself was a lot, because the timing for my school and letting us know, we really didn't have the funding to get there. And when I tell you that the staff at CMDA bent over backwards to make sure that we were there were several times that myself and classmate were like, we're not going to be able to make it. It's just, and Miss Pam, she was emailing us. She was like, we're going to find a way to get you here. And even that to me was a testament in itself. Like, she was so concerned
Mm-hmm.
about us getting there. And it could make me cry too. Like, I'm not that emotional person, but just her heart of like, we're going to get you there. And then with Grant, I mean, he made sure that we had a place to stay. He was so concerned about us checking in and making sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just getting there. And I was like, well, if this is how they are just getting here, I can only imagine, how it's going to be. And so we just didn't have the funding at the time. And the school, because of the dates, we weren't able to get it approved. And it was a lot, but we got there and we were able to present our poster. And we actually were first place in our division. And so that just was a little cherry on the top.
Stay with us. More Student Pulse podcast in just a moment.
There is a new learning opportunity brought to you by the CMDA Advocacy Team. This is a 7-module course, accessible from everywhere. It's designed for students to study in groups, among their peers. You will learn to discuss today's tough issues from a Christian perspective. You will be able to refine your worldview and learn new ways to address the hot topics of today. Learn to challenge the presuppositions of your peers. This course is designed for group participation, perfect for small groups and study groups. Best of all, this course is absolutely free. Use this course to learn, connect with your peers, and thrive in the current healthcare environment. Visit cmda.org/standing strong for more details.
Well, definitely. Big shout out to Pam Smythe, who really does. She's the front lines of the poster session, coordinating all the details. Grant, of course, as the regional director. So many great staff who are trying to make sure that it is as frictionless as possible to get from where you're at to get there in NatCon. But also say there's a lot of generous donors, people who are paying it forward, who were in the seat that you are right now, Erica, but now they're in their professional career. And they are giving generously so that students can have an opportunity to go like you did. And so I just say that to say to those who are listening, if you want to go, there is every opportunity to get there. God will find a way, and there are resources. It's just a question of tapping into those, and we can help point a student, in the direction they need to go.
Don't let finances be the reason that you don't want to go. Reach out. Do your part. And like I said, they bent over backwards. And I definitely want to thank the generous donors. I don't know their names specifically, but we wouldn't have been able to attend if it wasn't for them.
Oh, that's great. Well, I know you don't have a crystal ball. I know you can't look into the future, but you do know CMDA, the start, the point of contact that, a lot of people start with CMDA is during their med school or dental school years. But it does continue on through their training years, through residency, fellowship, through their professional career. It is, CMDA walks with a healthcare professional during their entire journey throughout healthcare. So as you look forward, how do you anticipate CMDA is going to, this is your tribe now, these are your people. How do you see being a part of CMDA moving forward in the future, especially as you move past medical school, fellowship, and beyond?
Like I said, it's my tribe, so it's like my family. So I'm not going anywhere. They're not going anywhere. So for residency, I'm just going to continue to be connected. And I'm hoping, and not I'm hoping, I'm going to make it a point to stay connected and reach out to medical students and even pre-med medical students, because there were some pre-medical students at the NatCon as well. And so I just want to, at every step, not forget where I started as a med student. And even when I get up to the level of an attending, I want to be able to reach back. I'm also hoping that in the future, I would be able to get into more of a leadership position. And so that I can kind of just share my story, how I got here, and in hopes that that would inspire others to remain connected to CMDA, regardless of what step in medicine they're in. Like, I would be sad to know that after med school, that's it. So it's a relief to know that pretty much for the remainder of however long I'll be on this earth, I can stay connected to CMDA. I mean, that's...
Well, we're glad you're you're part of the family, and
Yes, me too.
glad you were be able to share that moment with us in Cincinnati, and
Yes.
look forward to. We have not met in person, so perhaps the next national convention. I know, Lord willing, schedules are what they are, but would love to have a chance to meet you in person next time that
Absolutely.
we're at a convention together. Any final thoughts? Anything that is talking to fellow medical dental students that you'd want to say to them in terms of just how to just continue to how one might press into their faith as they're in going through
Yes.
medical school. Anything that you'd like to leave them with?
Yes, absolutely. I want to say that we do a lot to get to medical school. And when you get there, it's different from what you could imagine. You only know how it is once you get there. And you need to have an anchor when you get to medical school. You must have an anchor, because if you don't, there's going to be things like depression and anxiety that could take you down. And not to say that those things won't try to come, but when you have an anchor, you can go back and say, you know what, I know that God has put me here. I know that I'm going through this right now. But if I don't quit, if I continue, I will see the victory at the end. And just basic things like getting outdoors and getting sunlight. We know that the sun produces vitamin D, and then vitamin D helps in making something called serotonin. Well, that's what helps to boost our mood. We know that drinking water, our brain is 70 to 80% of water. Like doing those basic things that sometimes we overlook are also important. But reading and praying, like reading the Bible and praying, even if it's just 10, 15 minutes a day, or when you can, or listening on your phone, you have to make time for those things, because medical school is going to be, it's going to be challenging, but it's not a challenge that you can't overcome. And so remain connected to your classmates and to like CMDA. You have to be, you can't close yourself off to the world, which is the mistake I made when I first got to medical school. I was like, nope, God gave me this. I'm going to focus. And it was probably one of my worst decisions, because that's when depression and anxiety come in. So, remain connected to your community, remain connected to your family, take care of yourself mentally and physically, and reach out. Just reach out and let people know that you need to talk, or you need help with something, and they'll be there. And so again, I'm containing my excitement, but like, I am so grateful to God for CMDA. Like I didn't even know that there was something like this that existed for medical students, dental students, and physicians. And so it's just another confirmation that I'm on the right track, and that God has me right where he wants me.
Well, that's a great way to end it, a great exclamation point at the end. And thank you, Erica, for, again, the ways that you are making yourself available to be used by the Lord, being faithful to him, obedient to him where he calls. Thank you, Erica, for being a part of this podcast and for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. CMDA's Student Pulse podcast is a production of the Christian Medical and Dental Associations. The opinions expressed by guests on this podcast are not necessarily endorsed by the organisation. CMDA is non-partisan and does not endorse political parties or candidates for public office. The views expressed on Student Pulse podcast reflect judgments regarding principles and values held by CMDA and its members.